Hello everyone, how are you? Camilo here, and a little bit under the weather on this Sunday evening, but I did want to cut this video because I've been reading a really cool book recommended to me by Mike Hobbs. He's one of the leaders over at the Prosperity team, and last Thursday I attended one of his mastermind sessions, and he started talking about the one book really that's really sort of changed his life, dramatically. And it had to do with this book by Noah St. John. It's titled The Secret Code of Success, 7 Hidden Steps to More Wealth and Happiness. And he started showing us this different concept of using affirmations that was really bizarre, because rather than saying statements or straightforward affirmations, he was literally turning them into questions that assumed that he had already achieved the goal. And he was talking about that most people before he read this book really used affirmations incorrectly because they don't understand how the brain works. So I became instantly fascinated by this, and I went out and I picked up the book. I ordered it via my iBooks on my little iPad mini, and I started reading this thing on Friday. And I gotta tell you, I would be done with this book by now if not for the fact that I love it so much. I am actually following every single action step it tells me to do. It's been that monumentally enlightening for me. And today what I want to talk about is step 1 of these 7 hidden steps, which has to do with this thing called Afformations, which was very bizarre. When I first read it, it's like, that's a typo, and I'm already feeling like, oh my God, you're recommending a book and this guy can't spell. But it turns out that he actually made up this word because this is, in his mind, what really would bring this concept to light in the best way. And so let me explain to you very quickly what it is. I'm not going to get into the nuts and bolts of what affirmations are. I highly encourage you to go get the book. Guys, it's about $16.34. Just go Amazon and just do it. Or if you have a Kindle, I got mine for like $9.99. Okay, so let's go back to this. The idea of affirmation, and this is the quote, okay, that really sort of like started to really get me thinking. He said, if human thought, right here, if human thought is the process of asking and searching for questions, why are we going around making statements that we don't believe? And the reason he asks that question is because in his research and his experience, your mind responds best to questions. Okay, so keep that in mind. No pun intended. Keep that in mind, or maybe it is intended, who knows. Anyway, so if your mind responds naturally to questions, it's almost like the way he describes it, Noah St. John and Mike Hobbs, the way they describe it is, it's when you ask a question, when you say something like, gosh, why am I always late? It's almost like you're typing that exact same question into Google. And if I go to Google, right? If I go to Google and I land on this page and I type in the search query, I don't know, why am I always so tired? Well, here you go. Here's what happens. It gives you a bunch of answers, right? The premise behind this book is that your brain acts pretty much the same way. If you say, why am I always so tired? Your brain has no choice but continue to present to you scenarios, behavior, things that apparently will continue to make you tired so that it could justify, hey, I gave you the answer. You're always so tired because you eat a lot of sugar, and then by 2 o'clock you're crashing. So what do? You go and you get that coffee mid-afternoon, and then by 2, 3 o'clock you're crashing, right? Because that's what you do. Bizarre concept. I get it. You have to really read this a couple of times to really let it sink in until you finally start following through the book and actually doing the exercise, and then it makes perfect sense. In other words, here's the best way to explain this. Traditional affirmations, right? Traditional affirmations don't work for most people because we're trying to convince ourselves of something our minds don't believe it's true. In the way he does it, he calls out traditional affirmation training. In other words, he calls out traditional success programs that say, hey, you should just take a notepad and start writing all the things you want. You want to be rich, okay. You want to be healthy, okay. You want to be fit and strong, sure. You want to have a nice car, perfect. Now go ahead and write down on that piece of paper, I am rich, I have a nice car, I am strong, healthy, and toned. And isn't this what we've been told to do all along? I mean, I've done this forever, and to some extent it's worked. I'm not going to lie to you. But he asks you to try a completely different approach. He asks you to remember that if your brain is actually responding to questions, and that is the best way to sort of influence the brain, then why aren't you asking questions? Instead, why are you saying things that you don't believe? In other words, if when you write on that piece of paper, I am rich, but you're still going to work 6 months later, kind of hard, right? It's kind of difficult to get your brain and yourself emotionally invested into really believing that thing. Very difficult. So he says, flip it around. And so here's what I did. And I actually saw Mike Hobbs do it, which is why I actually immediately started doing this myself, because the guy makes a lot of money. And so I'm going to do what people that make a lot of money do, right? So he showed us a document that he wrote where he wrote a statement. I have a statement. I call it my definite major purpose. For those of you who have read Think and Grow Rich, highly recommend going through that process and writing your major definite purpose. And then, I have some other things underneath about some of the sort of like things that I want to manifest in my life. Mike turns that around, and he showed us a list of questions, and it just did not make any sense until I read this part of the book. So here's what it is. There's 4 steps, actually. I'll talk about them briefly before I even get into this. Let's see. Here we go. No, that's not it. Here we go. So 4 steps to getting this part of affirmation to work for you. Ask yourself what you want. Just write it down. Just write a goal like you've been always taught to do. Then flip the goal into a question. So if you're saying, I want to be rich, then say, why am I rich? Or why is it so easy for me to be rich? Or how come I'm rich, right? Then step 3 is give yourself to the question. In other words, do not start analyzing and dissecting it to death. Just do it. Allow the question to flow into the ether, if you will. I know it sounds hocus pocus, but just roll with me, okay? Allow yourself to really just let yourself go and believe into this idea that if you just give yourself to the question, your brain theoretically has no choice but to go out there and find the answer and then present the answer to you. And when it presents the answer to you, that's when step 4 comes into play, which means it's time to take action. So no hocus pocus stuff. Not, hey, how come I drive a nice Porsche and then tomorrow the Porsche just magically appears in your driveway? More like, how come I drive a nice Porsche and then somehow, some way, as long as you're in tune and doing this consistently, by virtue of this process, you should be able to encounter the opportunity or the things that you would need to do to easily get you to a place in your life where you can afford a Porsche, right? So what did I do? I wrote my statements down. Okay, and so for instance, I want to be rich. Typically, I would have said, I am rich. According to the book, if you do this, you're going to continue to say this like a zillion times, but chances are most people will not believe it. Some people will. I actually have used affirmations successfully. I remember when I first bought real estate, I had never bought real estate in my life before, but I was so determined to become a real estate investor during the boom that I did everything I could to just align myself in this thought process that I was going to do it, and I did. And one of the things I did was I put a blank check with an amount that I wanted to make on my first deal. And lo and behold, eventually when I did close on my very first deal, which was a 3-property deal, I actually did make almost the exact number I put on that check. I was off by like $70. It was creepy. It was very creepy. It was like $14,000, 700 and something, and I was off by $70. And I, to this day, will always believe that it was a matter of fact that just looking at that check every time I went to the fridge and thinking about it so much almost made me believe that it was just like my divine right to have it. So I'm not saying affirmations don't work, but this is a very interesting way of thinking about it. So for instance, I've got here things like, I want to be rich, or I want to sign up 2 people into my Empower Network business every day and help them make money, or I want to be happy, or I don't know, I want people to believe in me, okay? Or I want to be successful. I want to spend more time with my old friends. I want to be surrounded by successful, like-minded people. I want to help my dad be financially free. So I take all of these questions that you see here, right? And so I follow the instructions in the book and I flip them. I'm sorry, I take all these statements and now I follow the instructions in the book and I flip them into questions. Why am I so rich? Why is it so easy to sign up 2 people into my Empower Network business every day? Why is it so easy to earn $1,000 or more every day working 3 to 4 hours a week? 3 to 4 hours a day, 4 days a week. Why am I such an extraordinary leader? Why am I so successful? Why do I always spend enough time with my friends? Why am I a smart and well-respected person? Why am I an effective and irresistible marketer? Why do I have what it takes to succeed? And to be honest with you, last night, for instance, I put on my headphones and I turned on some of this white noise. I have a track that I play that really kind of helps my brain to sort of sink in and just focus. And I started reading these affirmations and I started feeling really wonderful as I was reading them. And it just made me feel different than when I say a statement, because I didn't have to work to believe this. It's bizarre to explain, but I'm asking a question, so it's nothing. I'm just asking a question. I'm not saying I'm rich, and then I'm realizing, well, I don't have $1 million in my bank account yet. I do pretty well, but I'm not rich by my definition of the word yet. So, this, I believe, will help me get to the next level. And I just wanted to share with you because, well, I think it's cool. And, that's what I'm all about. I'm about helping people get to their goals. And anytime that I come across cool things like this, you can count on me to share it with you. In fact, Sundays, a lot of what I like to do on Sundays is, share information like this, because I think that more than anything, these are the foundation blocks that are going to help you get to where you want to get. So again, go ahead, check out this book, Secret Code of Success, Noah St. John. Pick it up, go to a library, whatever you got to do. Just, I didn't know about this book, and I've been studying self-development or personal development for many, many years. So I figure a lot of you out there probably don't know about it either. And if you do, feel free to comment on my blog or send me a message and let me know your thoughts. I'm really curious. All right. So have a phenomenal rest of your Sunday, and we'll see you again soon. Take care, guys.